Scott, we have longtime support partners from Need Essentials today and NVS Fins.
Unreal. You got to get your need essentials. Tell you what, the water took a little chill down here, and I'm going to need to get some new booties. I've got an insane 4.3. It's time to get geared up for winter. I mean, this feels like the first week of winter here in Southern California. So need essentials, get your stuff. NeedEssentialsUSA.com, I think, is the website, right? NeedEssentialsUSA.com.
Yeah, that is. And that's the other thing is there's been kind of wetsuit shortages in Southern California due to a shipping issue. Need Essentials is stocked. I got a new 4.3 from them 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, which there's nothing better. There's nothing better than brand new seams and everything on a suit. Gets you motivated to surf. They also have outerwear, obviously, for the mountains. So snowboard or ski pants, jackets, an outer shell. You can kind of layer. They make 3 jackets, a thin one, a puffy one, and then a shell for when it's wet. So get all of that stuff or gift all of that stuff. NeedEssentialsUSA.com.
Dude, check this out. Let me show you something. Boom.
Boom. Whoa. The Taylor Knox fin?
The Taylor Knox twin fin from NVS.
That's got an interesting little
yeah, it's got this little
curve on that little nub.
Yeah, can you see that? Yeah,
I can see the nub.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched on these fins. Of course, I haven't tried them yet, but I'm looking forward to putting them in my new Blackbird twin fin that Tim Crozier made me, giving it a spin.
So those are the Taylor Knox, the Arc series fins that he has with NVS. I didn't know that he actually had the twin with him as well. I have the thrusters from him.
Yeah.
I actually just sent in the mail today Surfing World magazine to Taylor.
Oh, cool. Very good.
Yeah, there's a few issues left if anybody wants them. Sean Doherty sends me a batch to distribute in the US. So if anybody wants them, I think there's 5 or 6 issues left. Sweet. But yeah, and shout out to NVS Fins. surfnvs.com is their website. You can purchase them through a lot of the best retailers, not only Southern California, East Coast, Israel, various points around the world. And yeah, they've just been a great support and they make the best fins.
And another great opportunity for gifting, like super simple and powerful gift to the surfers in your life. NVS fins.
And it actually fits perfectly into a stocking. Perfect. It's got the curve for the foot of the stocking. There you go. It
goes right into the stocking, just like that. And some coal on your black. I guess all coal is black, but some coal. Take out the coal, put in the cool.
surfnvs.com.
Hey, yeah, guy. Yeah, friggin' guy. Yeah, guy. Welcome, David. It's Spit. It is Tuesday. It is December the 7th, David. You know what this day is?
No, I don't.
Pearl Harbor Day.
D-Day. Yeah,
Pearl Harbor. 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day. My friends in Hawaii are, looking back on that day, remembering those that perished as they fought tyranny and authoritarianism.
I should know this day. My grandfather was there.
Hell yeah. That's
he
insane.
Was a child. Yeah, he was, I think, 8 years old, living in Honolulu when the planes flew over and they bombed, and it was pure pandemonium, as he tells it.
Is he still alive?
Unfortunately, no. He passed away about 10 years ago. But that movie, there was a big Hollywood movie called Pearl Harbor that came out, and I went and saw that in theaters with him. And it jarred a lot of memories loose that he hadn't shared previously. And yeah, it was a really traumatic experience for an 8-year-old. Like, they were killing Japanese people in the street as an act of retribution and in the chaos and the madness after the bombings. And so he experienced all that. He talked about hiding in a bathtub, like one of those pedestal type bathtubs that he and I think a brother or sister got inside, and then the parents like turned it over on top of them to protect them because they didn't know, if the bombings were going to go for days or whatever. It was just pure chaos. So pretty interesting.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm stoked you got to hear that firsthand account from your grandfather. It'd been cool to video some of that insight from him, but
I know. Or just, yeah, I mean, now that I interview people basically for a living, I mean, I totally think about that. He didn't talk much when I was really young. He came from poverty. He was born on Kauai, first of all, but ended up on Oahu. came from poverty and was just raised so differently than me and my cousins were. So I think he kind of resented that we're just like ungrateful little brats, essentially, and
Yeah.
that he had to work so hard his whole life. So for the first 15 years of my life, he didn't really talk much. But as he got older, I think he softened, and as you do. And so, yeah, he certainly shared stories like that. And we got to hear pretty crazy stuff. The world changed a lot in his lifetime.
I know, gosh, when you think about like even just like the past 200 years, like it's incredible how much change has happened.
Well, less than that. I mean, the Industrial Revolution, right? In the early 1900s, the automobile, planes being invented, a lot of people that are still alive experienced some of those things.
Yeah, it's weird. Like when you think about like you know, the change that's occurred culturally and historically, where did that change begin? Like where does the arc start on the chart? And I'm not sure where I would want to say like the Renaissance, like 1690, like right around in there when all of a sudden a science and art and this stuff started to kind of move in and kind of nudge into I guess religions, which kind of owned the space, and I think from there is when, man, we're on like a rocket ship of change right now.
Yeah. I remember seeing that chart in like a sociology class or something in college, and it was the Industrial Revolution, but I think that was 1800s. And that was like a rocket ship of innovation and also
technological. Yeah.
Yeah. And population too.
Yeah.
Boomed after that because, you could commercially produce food and get it across the country. And then there was medicine and hospitals and all that sort of stuff. So everything blew up. But then there's a new trend, which is just the last 20 years, that is the technological revolution that has radically changed everything. So for anybody who is alive through the early 1900s till now, it's just like a world of difference.
I know, it's crazy. When were you born? Like, well, were you
80,
around?
81.
Were you an adult when there wasn't cell phones?
No, I got my first cell phone when I was 16. And I had like the same phone number since I was 16.
Oh, wow.
So
that's interesting.
I remember them coming to be because like, I remember my parents not having them. And I remember my dad getting a car phone, which was just like such a luxury, but it was because it was for work.
Yeah.
But like my friends, would be like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah. We're in the middle of it. Everything's changing quick.
Totally. Lots going on in the surf world though, Scott. Lots going on in Hawaii. We've got Drew Brophy news. Matt Warshaw's doing an encyclopedia of surfing fun drive. Pete Mel dropped a documentary. What do you got?
I know. God, I want to watch the Pete Mel thing. Let's start off with Matt. Matt Warshaw's 2021 Encyclopedia of Surfing fundraiser. It's happening right now. He's got a bunch of big things happening for 2022, including he's going to be adding a book section, a new supercharged, improved search engine, and as always, an enormous amount of surf history that he needs to archive and catalog and digitize. He's got a never-ending job. So if you can find it, and this is the time of giving. I've been giving a lot this month, and I plan on giving some to the Encyclopedia of Surfing, Matt Warshaw, EOS. And yeah, I would do that. And I think you should too. What are your thoughts on Matt?
EOS.surf is the website. It's a $3 a month commitment. So I talked to Matt a couple of weeks ago about his business. And I'm like, because he doesn't have any advertisers. He intentionally doesn't want to include advertising on the site, which I think is, it's a decision. And I understand why he's making it. But there's really no way to increase revenues other than doing this drive or to get more people to sign up, which is incremental. It's like, okay, $3 here, $3 there, I was like, dude, just increase it to $5. Nobody's going to drop out for $5. Heck, throw caution to the wind, make it $6 a month. Nobody's going to drop off for $6 and you would double your revenues, And so he's actually considering doing that. I can't imagine that anybody would drop off, or if they do, it's probably 1% to 2% of people. And the doubling of the revenue will far cover that because the amount of work that he does is more than a 40-hour-a-week job. And he doesn't make enough off of it to hire a person to help. So he's wearing the hats of bookkeeping, content creation, archiving stuff. He can't even get around to adding new entries onto the site, So he said that he's going to start just making it the encyclopedia of 20th century surfing, or 20th century surfing. And I'm like, well, that's creating a limitation. How about just increase revenues? You can expand the scope of what you do by just hiring and delegating. So.
Well, I just donated just now while we were talking.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So, and it's not just, so I'm already a subscriber, a monthly subscriber to his site, but I've also given a yearly donation on top of the subscription, which is what I would recommend our listeners do if you're so inclined.
I like it. That's smart. Also, another thing that he told me was he's transitioning, his website's built on WordPress, and he's transitioning to a different platform. And so that's a big one-time expense and then a big learning curve for him. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of where this fund money goes, the fund drive money goes.
That's interesting. Huh. I wonder why he's leaving WordPress.
Yeah, he didn't fully explain it to me. I think it had limitations for where he's at now and what he's doing.
All right. Well, look, there's other ways and other places to give this December. I also have given my yearly donation to the Surfing Heritage and Culture Center, SHAC, and it's surfingheritage.org if you want to donate there. And in addition, I've given my yearly donation to Surf Aid International, who I'm involved with on some level. So there's Encyclopedia of Surfing, there's the Surfing Heritage and Culture Center, and there's Surf Aid International. Those are three places where I've, eked out a little bit out of my budget to give to them. And I would recommend it. If there's, wherever you give from your heart, give generously. Maybe it's, I don't know, the March of Dimes. I don't know where you give. It's none of my business. But I think if everybody gave a little bit, we'd all receive a whole bunch.
I heard only one dime out of every dollar actually goes to the charity of the March of Dimes, and the 90 cents goes to running the business, or the salary of the CEO even. So we can trust that your donations are in good hands, certainly at SHAC, certainly at Surf Aid, certainly at EOS. What's going on at SHAC? Haven't been there in such a long time.
It's funny. This is so much better though than meeting there. This is so much better. But I was looking through our YouTube and I saw some old ones where we were actually together at SHAC. And it's a pretty cool venue from what's behind us. It's got that kind of cliche bookshelf vibe that most professional looking Zoom backgrounds have. My Zoom background is it's a little ratty back here in the garage / office. But you can see I've got an AG1 towel.
Oh yeah. Did that sweater fit you, by the way?
The green one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't tried it on.
Okay. I ordered in between a medium and a large. So I asked for a medium from them and it's way too snug. It could just be all the holiday pie that I've been eating.
Yeah. I'm trying to slim everything down.
Me too. So anyway, SHAC, any updates from them worth noting?
They have a great new executive director, Steve Morris, and they're doing things. It's tough to be a nonprofit in the times of COVID. So
yeah,
we're just excited that all these nonprofits are up and alive and working. And it's important to support them. It's weird. It's like, look, I'm going to support Stab. I'm going to support the Surfers Journal. You're supporting Surfing World, Sean doing Surfing World. We're all trying to support different things. And, I'm all for it. And yeah,
I think we're living in a better time now than ever before in terms of the content. And the surf world's a microcosm for what's happening in all of media. Rather than giving DirecTV $100 a month and having 300 channels that I don't watch, I give $10 to Netflix, I give $5 to Hulu, $10 to Amazon, and it probably amounts to less than what I was originally spending, but it's exactly what I want to watch. If I'm not watching HBO anymore, I'll cancel that immediately. And so in the surf world, it's not just 3 magazines and a couple of filmmakers that are creating all the content with the same 12 surfers all the time. There's now You could watch Craig Anderson's new edit. You could watch, the WSL content if you want. You could watch Stab High if you want. There's just so much that you can watch. And I think a lot of those entities are now figuring out ways to monetize themselves and then get direct support. So we're in that transition, but I'm all for it.
Speaking of which, maybe we should throw out a call to our listeners to give a donation to Spit.
We don't often enough, to be honest.
I know.
And
let's do a holiday push right now.
I agree. We should, because I noticed a little bit of attrition where we have a few people cancel every month, and then a couple more sign up, and it kind of flushes out, but we never advertise it. So you could subscribe on surfsplendorpodcast.com, click over to the subscribe button, and it's $5 a month. It goes a long way. It's the foundation of our business. Ad revenues are great. Those are add-ons, but they fluctuate from month to month. And so the subscription model is the foundation of the business.
Yeah. So find it in your heart. Flow a subscription to you yourself or one of your surf buddies.
So the other donation thing that is going around the last couple of days is for Drew Brophy. Did you see this?
Yeah, I did.
So Drew was at the Boardroom show.
Oh yeah, he had an incredible booth. He and Maria and Phil Roberts, and they had this great Posca pen display and exhibit, and it was actually a hands-on thing. So there was tons of kids and adults too, quite frankly, learning how to use the Posca pen on foam and paint boards and make art. And it was really an engaging exhibit that they had, and it's just troubling and sad to hear that Drew's literally, I don't know where he's at, but I think he's in a pretty scary place as far as COVID and like, is he intubated? I don't want to sit here and tell you that I know that he's been intubated and that I don't know where he's at with it right now, but I know it's scary.
So he contracted COVID at the beginning of November, and after 10 days, after 10 days of staying home and kind of trying to fight it on his own, he was not able to get out of bed, really having a hard time breathing. So he actually got admitted to the ICU, and they did put him on a ventilator. His lungs were not strong enough to kind of help him get through it. So they put him on the ventilator, and he's expected, or his family and friends, his brother's the one who set up the GoFundMe, which is where I'm getting my information from. They expect him to make a full recovery. But he's not out of the woods. He's still in the ICU, but he has expert care. And Drew was saying that more important, this GoFundMe is set up because it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. So they're going to need help with that when the bill comes due. So you can donate on the GoFundMe. We will link to it. But he's also saying that he would really appreciate positive thoughts for good health and healing. He believes that kind of the universe can kind of coalesce those and help them. So what they're recommending is close your eyes throughout the day, say a quick prayer, call it good vibes, whatever. But the direct quote is, Drew is healed and in good health. That is what they're asking people to create kind of as their mantra. Drew is healed and in good health. So it's not, I hope that he heals. It's that he's healed and he's in good health. And that's what the family's asking. I think that's what Drew himself is asking for.
I realize there might be some listeners who don't know who Drew is. You and I know him well because he's an integral part of the Southern California surfboard manufacturing industry, but he's a world-renowned artist, if you didn't know, and he does a lot of art on surfboards and on all sorts of stuff, actually everything. But he sort of got his start in surfboards, and he's a really good surfer. So Drew is
his
healed.
Art, even if listeners don't recognize the name, I'm almost certain they've seen the art if they followed surfing for the last couple of decades. I first encountered it, I would say, in the mid to late 90s on Lost surfboards. I think there was a time where the art that they had was like exclusively Drew's. And so they both kind of grew up through their heydays together. And it is surf themed art, often ocean themed art. And it's really big, colorful, extravagant kind of in its aesthetic and design. It's easily identifiable as Drew Brophy once you see it.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I'm glad he's getting better.
You talked about he's a good surfer. Geez, he is a charger on his website. It's him charging Todos. On that GoFundMe, there's a wave him charging Puerto Escondido on like a double or triple overhead left, just absolutely charging. So yeah, the GoFundMe is great. There's also his website, drewbrophyart.com. And so why not just go buy art from him, support the business, you know?
There you go. That's a great call. Great call.
Yeah. Well, Scott, Haleiwa wrapped up last week.
Oh my, that was exciting, and it was a really great final. I mean, I don't know. Am I jonesing for a surf contest, or
yes,
back me up here? I mean, it was an incredible final, right? I mean, holy mackerel,
incredible.
John Florence, just insane. Jack Robinson ripping. Kanoa doing some crazy, I'm not the air guy, so I don't even know what he was doing, but he was doing some crazy stuff. And
corrupt flip.
Yeah, corrupt flip. Thank you. And then Samuel Pupo looking like he belongs. So it was really, I enjoyed it. And maybe it's because it was big and meaty and there was lots of waves, and gosh, John Florence was just, I mean, is he on his A+ game? I don't think he surfs any better than what we've seen in the last month.
John's back from injury and better than ever. John, as you intend to do, you want to peak in the final. John opens the final with a 10-point ride that might have been the most convincing 10-point ride I can remember seeing. It was such a flawlessly surfed wave, improvised, unexpected. The first air spinner that he does was a crazy style of a rotation, and the speed that he did it and everything off a critical section, the first section of the wave, so buttery, landing in transition into like a almost mid-face bottom turn. It pulls into the barrel, which was a sick barrel. Like it was a difficult section to possibly get into after a turn like that. And he just gets into it so perfectly, not even a pump, just like out of the rotation into that, comes through that section. I think he does a big snap, right?
No, he does another little alley-oop thingy.
Well, I remember he closes the wave with another air rotation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I think.
I think he does a snap after he comes out. He does like a super critical snap, and a proper like critical, nothing held back, and then like a cutback, and then boom, an air off the end section. It was just the most complete ride, seamless in transition, amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those rides when you see a great wave surf. Sometimes you go, well, that's probably a 10. I mean, they're going to give him a 10, right? But that wave was like, there's no doubt that's a 10. Like you're just like guaranteed 10, guaranteed 10. One judge gave him a 9.8, but
shut up.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
There was a 9.8 in there.
There's nothing more you could have done on that wave. The first air that he does on that wave was the best air that I had seen throughout the entire contest. Then he gets kind of the craziest little barrel section I've seen throughout the contest. He did everything on one wave that was arguably the best version of it in the contest, what else do you want?
Yeah. And Jack Robinson looked super solid. I mean, and like I said, Kanoa, this could be Kanoa's year. I wouldn't be surprised if Kanoa's a world champion. I wouldn't be surprised if any of those three guys maybe Jack Robinson would be a bit of a surprise.
I'd be very surprised if Kanoa was a world champ this year.
Really?
I think he's got top 5 potential, but I cannot see him beating Gabriel Medina. I can't see him beating John at most of the venues on tour. I can't see him even beating like Felipe, certainly not Idolo. Well,
that's a good call, I guess.
So what's interesting or what's great, I think, is you see these guys.
Hold on.
Yeah, go.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
If Kanoa Igarashi doesn't win a world title, undoubtedly his career is somewhat soiled. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And
been
so
his entire life's ambition to win a world title.
Do you think he'll ever win a world title if John and Gabe and Idolo or any one of those three is on the tour with him?
There's possibility that he will. He'll have to elevate his game from where it's at now, though. I think Kanoa's strength is that he's going to get a pair of sevens, potentially 7.5s in every single heat, no matter where it is in the world, from Pipeline to Huntington Beach. The chink in his armor is that he's not going to get a 10. And so those other guys that I just named are liable to drop 10s in any heat, almost anywhere in the world. Kanoa, I've never seen him.
Wait a minute. What did he do at Karamas though? Karamas, he got some 9s.
He did exactly what I said. He made it through the heats with a strong combo of points, but no, he didn't get the highest wave scores of the event.
Of the final, he did.
Yeah. And he won the final against Jeremy Flores, but there was better surfing throughout that event. Remember Kelly on the Aquilas?
Elo too. I think Elo was ripping.
That's right. Yeah. And not to take anything away from Kanoa, I think he's phenomenal.
No.
But that is the difference between the world champs and him but his strength again is that he's never going to get less than those 2 7s. And that'll have him consistently in quarterfinals and maybe even semifinals, but he doesn't threaten with 10s.
So it's almost like a perfect storm, a perfect season of results has to fall into place. Like you could see him with a second and an equal third and a fifth and another second and a third and a fifth and be right there in the running.
Yeah.
Going into the final 5 and everything comes together. A guy gets an interference, I mean.
Well, yes. So not only does he have to have the season come together, he has to have Gabriel Medina fall off his own game. And the problem right now is that even if Gabriel does, Idolo's right there. And even if Idolo does, John's right there. So Kanoa would have to have all those people, the stars really align. All those people fall off, and for him to kind of peak on finals day. And that's so to Kanoa's benefit, points from the season don't factor into finals day.
Right.
Because if they did, then he would have to overcome that gap in the points between Gabriel and 5th place, let's say. But in theory, from what you're saying, he can get into finals day and then just have the day of days, and all those other guys have the worst day of their season.
Technically, he's in the top 5, wouldn't you say? Like technically he's in the top.
Yeah.
And I would say competitively, he's probably in the top 2. Like what's between his brain, his ability to kind of, compete. And I think he showed that at Pipe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I could just see it happening. I just feel like the forces of history are on his side. Like it's almost like it needs to happen, because of the Japan. I don't know, like call me weird, but I just feel like it's all gonna, at some point, it's all gonna come together for him. And I don't know what year it is, but it needs to be, within the next 5 years.
Well, what I liked about this event for the men's side is that the CT surfers really brought their A game and kind of elevated to a different status than a lot of the QS surfers.
Yeah.
And this showed in the final as well.
I agree. Totally. That's totally where it just really shined.
Yeah. It's like there was 3 CT surfers in the final. They placed exactly as you would expect them to place. John in first, Jack Robinson in second, Kanoa in third, and then Sammy Pupo deserved to be there. He surfs amazingly, but not as good as those guys. So he ended up 4th. What's interesting though, is on the women's side, we've talked about there's an upset coming. We're looking at Aaron Brooks, we're looking at Caitlin Simmers, and we're like, man, in the next 5 years, that female CT is going to get absolutely upended. While we've been waiting for years for some of those girls to start landing air rotations consistently, they're not going to figure it out. They haven't figured it out for the last 5 years. They're not going to figure it out. Whereas these new girls have figured it out, and they're just going to step up and blow up. And I think that we started seeing that at Haleiwa. The field between the CT surfers and the QS surfers was not as distinct. And then you get them all in the final together. 3 of them turned out to be QS surfers, rather than on the men's side, 3 being CT surfers. So Carissa Moore, the defending champ, was the only one in the final. And she ended up placing 3rd after Betty Lou Sakura Johnson in first, Gabriella Bryan in second, and India Robinson in 4th. Who all then qualified for the CT.
Wow. Yeah. I'm looking at the girl side of things, and frankly, there's only one person on here who I could tell you which way she goes, regular or goofy.
Interesting.
Not the CT,
Well,
the Challenger series. Not
well,
the not the
and who is
CT.
that one person?
Carissa Moore. I'm just looking. She was
Well,
sixth place on the Challenger series this year. She only surfed in one event.
so Betty Lou is one who you will become familiar with, and she kind of came up, sprouted out of just in this last year, I'd say, into my awareness. But she lives, get this, she's 16 years old. She lives in Eddie Aikau's house. He used to live. He used to live in the house that she
In
lives
the
in.
cemetery?
No. Ooh, brutal. Too soon, dude.
No, that's where the Aikau's grew up. They grew up in the cemetery. That's where
okay.
their house was. Pops Aikau.
Okay.
Pops Aikau was the groundskeeper for the cemetery.
Got it. Maybe it is that house then. She surfs Haleiwa every day. That is her spot, which is why, she did so well in this event.
Yeah.
And she's qualified for the tour now. So she's looks incredible to me. What I really appreciated about her at Haleiwa was her attack. She was just attacking the lip, where a lot of the other women were going to the open face to do their turn. There's a crumbly lip and she goes vert into that thing and would smack it every single time. And so I think she was deserving not only to be in the final, but to win it over Carissa Moore, no less.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this new crop of women handle the CT, from a mental standpoint.
She's only 16, so it remains to be seen.
To be in your home, in your backyard,
exactly,
ripping hard with all your friends, but all of a sudden you're at Bell's and you're putting on the jersey and you're like, oh shit, I'm against Stephanie and whoever else, and
Carissa.
Yeah. Or who's the red hot Australian girl that's hasn't won the world title yet?
Sally.
Yeah, Sally. Like you get Sally and Steph in your heat at Bell's or something, you're just like, oh shit, all of a sudden you're in the big leagues, and to be 16, totally. That's almost, I don't know, man. I would argue that's maybe too young to be on the challenge. I don't know.
It could easily be argued, and it really comes down to the individual. So it remains to be seen. But she has a lot of potential. And now the real thing that you and I need to almost place a wager on, and we could figure out the terms of the wager, is for 2022, Marshall versus Munoz.
Oh my God. I know this is a great thing. So let's just set the listeners up. Carlos Munoz has been your guy for at least 4 or 5 years, I would say. When he first had a kind of a run at it, maybe 5 years ago, barely did not qualify. And Jake's my hometown hero here in Encinitas. So, okay, what's the wager, mofo? Bring it.
Let's figure it out. I mean, or we can let listeners decide for us, but it might have even been more than 5 years ago, because I feel like that's probably when he didn't qualify, but I was really hyping him years before that. I was like, Scott, Carlos Munoz.
Because you were down there, right? Weren't you in Costa Rica with him? And so you kind of surfed around him and seen him in film. Weren't you filming him at some point?
Yeah. And he would come through Southern California as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's the real deal. And he was like either finaled or maybe even won pipe at the Volcom contest, the Volcom Pipe Pro. So like he's got game in Hawaii. He's a great small wave surfer. He's got airs. He's got power. And you just kept saying, yeah, I'll believe it when he qualifies. I'll believe it when I see it. There's a million other red hot surfers that do that stuff. And I'm like, no, not to do it at pipe, not to do it in small waves. Anyways, he's finally qualified, and not as definitively as your Jake Marshall did. Jake Marshall finished a little bit stronger, but you're hyping Jake. I've been hyping Carlos. So 2022, it is on. I'm picking my guy. You're picking your guy, head to head. Who ends up finishing stronger?
Well, I guess what we have to do is look, we know there's a cutoff after, I want to say there's a cutoff after Bell's or Margaret.
Margaret.
Okay. So I mean, do we do who's got the highest ratings point after Margaret?
Yeah.
And then if they both continue on, how about if one continues on and the other doesn't, there's an additional bonus bet. You know what I'm saying? So write this down. So after Margaret's, whoever's got the highest ranking is, what is it, $100?
Sure. Or we, it doesn't have to be monetary. Like it could be shame related,
No,
like,
100 losing $100 to you is a pretty shameful thing.
okay, $100. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, $100. And then if they both move on, we pay the first bet off, whoever has the highest rating, and then we go into a double or nothing. We make it the same bet, but for $200
If they both move on.
if they both move on. Now, if they don't
Okay.
both move on, if only one of them moves on, the first bet is not $100 but $200.
Okay. I'm in.
You got that
I
all
like
written
it.
down?
No,
So
but I like it.
The first bet is $100, whoever has the highest ratings after Margaret's.
Okay.
The second bet is if one of them does move on and the other doesn't, that bet is now $200. If they both move on, the first bet gets paid, and the second bet is for $200, who has the highest ratings points at the end of the year.
Okay. I like it.
Are we going to remember this? We never even remember our bets. We need somebody to like remember.
We'll
these
remember.
bets.
Listeners will.
Listeners are already on us.
Because we've already been tracking these two guys for years. So
Yeah.
it'll be front of mind at every contest.
Yeah.
Now let's assess what those events are, because that matters.
It does.
Pipeline, Sunset, Paniche, Bells, and Margaret. So at Pipe, I got Carlos. I'm comfortable picking Carlos over Jake at Pipe. So I'm fine with that. What about Sunset? Who benefits at Sunset?
Kind of a wild card, to be honest with you.
I think so too.
Sunset,
Paniche is kind of equal, I'd say.
yeah.
Bells, Margaret. Have either of them been to Bells or Margaret?
I'm sure Jake has.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's pretty
to be honest
even.
with you, I haven't seen Jake Marshall do a whole lot of surfing. But I haven't seen Carlos either.
This is perfect.
I just know I've seen Jake in events, but I don't free surf with him because he surfs down at Seaside and I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now my son surfs with Jake a lot, and but to me this is about a hometown. This is my hometown guy, so it doesn't even matter. I'm all about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, here's the additional qualifiers for 2022.
Yes.
Which I am so excited about. I think this is fantastic. The way that they've structured this with the Challenger Series and then the cutoff mid-year.
Yeah.
The fact that we get to see these guys, a new crop of surfers to get excited about. I mean, some years in the past, there's only 2 new surfers on tour.
I know.
But there's 18 that we don't want to see again and again and again.
Right.
So I love that there's 12 new faces. Well, I think 3 of them have actually been on tour before.
Yeah.
But 12 of a new enthused crop.
Yeah.
To contend with that 32 male surfers, for a mid-season cutoff. We don't have to wait the whole year.
Just think what it does. Forget about these guys, the new guys. Just think what it does to the top 20 that are like, I've got these guys nipping at my heels. They only have 5 events to show what they're about. These guys are coming. They're coming for you.
How does Wade Carmichael feel right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're fired up. Wade's like, I better call Taylor Knox and start working out, man. I need a strong stomach here because
he should be calling Felipe Toledo actually, because he's already got the Taylor Knox part down.
Right. Well, I meant like the workout thing, but yeah, and then on top of that, you throw in Zeke and Connor and Nat Young, who they kind of have almost an added thing. They're like, yeah, I've been here before, and I don't ever want to be in the Challenger Series again. I'm going even harder. Like, I do think that the WSL needs to continue to hype the fact that each one of these events, each one of these heats means a lot now. Yeah. It's almost like 2 seasons inside of a season.
Perfect. Well, in addition to Zeke Lau, the aforementioned Zeke Lau, Nat Young, Connor O'Leary, there's Imai Kalani DeVault, Caleb Robson, who's Australian, Liam O'Brien, Australian, Luca Messina, interesting pick from Peru. And I've actually spent some time with him too. Sammy Pupo, who's the younger brother of Miguel Pupo from Brazil, but he's a regular footer. Zhao Chonka, who's Brazilian, Jackson Baker's Australian, Jake Marshall from Encinitas, California, and Carlos Munoz from Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's an interesting crew. I mean, I'm trying to figure out which one of these guys are regular and goofy. There's some guys I don't know too much about, like Zhao Chionka. I don't know what's up with him. Jackson Baker, I think I saw him in Australia this year. Wasn't he a wild card?
I don't remember if he was or not, but he's a regular footer. He rides for CI. He surfs good.
CI got quite a few guys here, I noticed too.
So any predictions for this list?
Well, it's weird. It's so, like, you look at the quote unquote veterans on this list and you're like, well, they're probably going to do pretty good. I don't know, man. It's hard to kind of look at this list and say, I mean, to me, the obvious one is Connor O'Leary. I see Connor O'Leary getting through the halfway point, no problem. The cutoff point.
So the cut after Margaret goes from 36 to 24. So it's not a huge cut. It's not half the field, but I could see a lot of these guys whose names we're not as familiar with. Caleb Robson, Zhao Chionka, Jackson Baker, Luca Messinas, not doing well at pipe. I could see them not doing great at pipe. I could see them not doing great at sunset. So if you finish last or second to last at the first two events, that really erodes your self-esteem going to Paniche. You know, and you're just like, shoot, okay, I only got 3 events to get my act together. And then they all have a chance at Paniche. The waves could be crummy. They could also be A-frame barrels. I think they're all comfortable in those kind of conditions. And then you look at Bells. Bells is surfboard specific. You know, Bells is kind of a challenging wave, and unless you've spent a bunch of time there, you know, that really doesn't benefit any of these guys either. There's a few Australians on that list, so maybe they would be prepared for Bells. So it's dicey. It's really dicey.
It's a good breakdown. Actually, it's a good breakdown to look at it like that. And then you had me thinking, let's say we get into the last event at WA and there's like, 6 or 7 guys that just aren't going to qualify. Even if they win Margaret River, they're not qualifying. So they're going into Margaret River basically with nothing to lose, nothing, except to help out their bro by dropping in on a guy or just stuffing a guy. Like, there could be, I doubt that'll happen because it's not the good old days, but there could be situations where, like, Ima Kalani DeVault's like, I'm out of it, but I can help Zeke by just burning the shit out of his competitor in this heat, or like, obviously I'm sort of, I'm not making a mockery of it, but I'm just saying that these situations could arise where it's like, hey, it's going to help my guy if I do this or do that, because I got nothing to lose anyway, this whole nothing to lose factor.
Well, Imai Kalani DeVault is from Maui. So he is, he has experience in Hawaii. So where I said those other names might not do well at pipe and sunset, what if he does? He could actually thrive in those conditions and be this kind of underdog that ends up in the top 10 coming out of Hawaii with a bunch of momentum going into Paniche. That could be interesting. I could see Zeke Lau as well. It's like Zeke's coming off of a hot streak. He's very well proven at sunset. He's very comfortable at pipe. That year that Matty Wilkinson came out of nowhere and won 2 events in a row, this could be Zeke's year for something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I also look at this list and I say to myself, okay, which one of these guys isn't traveled? It doesn't have a lot of world travel under his belt. And they probably all have a lot of travel under their belt, but it does factor in a little bit. If you're a young guy on tour and you've never been to WA or you've never been to Bells, that stuff does play into this, guys that have been on tour 4 years, like, yeah, I stay here, I sleep here, I eat here, I go here, I know what to do, but the new guys are like, oh shit, man. Oh yeah. And I got to put on a jersey tomorrow too. Where's the rental car place?
Right. Well, we've been talking about the first half of the season. The second half is really exciting as well. After that cut, there's G-Land, which we're super psyched to see back on tour, presuming that it actually happens. Trestles, Rio, Brazil, we don't care that much about. J-Bay, Chopu, and then finals day is yet to be announced where that's going to be. But that's an exciting half of the season,
I've got a thought on where that's going to take place.
Tell me.
Would it surprise you if it was at Barra?
No, it would not surprise me.
Yeah, me either. Southern Hemisphere, late Southern Hemisphere, September. I'm thinking any spot Cabo South could be one of the spots. I'm talking Peru, it could be,
And they had a great event there this past season.
yeah. And Rip Curl has experience there. It's a Rip Curl event.
Yeah, I like it. That'd be cool. There's only 5 surfers for one day. So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 surfers on either side. And like I said, I think the women's tour, we're going to see it be completely upset by this new crop of girls. The women qualifiers are, I say girls because most of them are under 21, but the female qualifiers are Gabriella Bryant, Brissa Hennessy. I think she had a lot of wild cards this last year into the event. So she's not, I think she's technically a rookie, but we've seen her before. Caitlin Simmers, who's only 16, India Robinson, Betty Lou Sakura Johnson, who won Haleiwa. She's only 16 as well. And then Luan Silva, who's 17. So I think.
Dude, how are these young girls going to do at Chopu in August?
Great question.
When it's friggin' even 6-foot Chopu, if you're a 17-year-old and have never surfed there, I mean, it's super clear water. It looks like the reef's going to come up and grab your face.
Cannot wait to find out.
That's going to be gnarly.
It's going to be gnarly and great.
Can't it ain't Waco, man. This is not Waco, Texas.
Totally.
Holy shit.
Super exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yep. The unfortunate thing is Pipe. We got to wait for Pipe, man. Pipe's not till February.
Well, there's a Pipe event. There's a Challenger Series Pipe event. What you'll notice, a couple things. There's no such thing as the Pipeline Masters anymore. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
The concept of the Pipeline Masters is gone.
Did we talk about this?
Yeah, it kind of just slipped away. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of like the Duke event. It's like, really? Yeah, there's events at Sunset Beach, but it's not the Duke event, and there's events at Pipe, but it's not the Pipe Masters, which that name. And I bet a lot of people are like, it doesn't matter. It's just Pipe. I mean, they had the Vulcan Pipe Pro, and that was always exciting. And it was. But maybe I'm being nostalgic here, but it's kind of a bummer that there's no Pipeline Masters.
So what is it called in 2022?
Bear with me here. I will tell you.
I've got it coming up as well. The Billabong Pipe Pro. The Billabong Pro Pipeline, actually.
Right. And then the next year, it's the Vans Pipe Pro. And the Challenger Series event is called, where is it? I don't see it on here. Men's Challenger Series 2021. I thought there was a pipe event this year. This month.
There is. Their calendar was wacky. It was put on 2021, I think.
I'm on 2021, December.
Oh, you are?
And it has the Haleiwa event.
Huh. Can't help you then. Don't know what it's called.
Yeah, maybe it's not happening.
I
don't know. Okay.
Well, anyways, Hawaii's exciting. Thrilled to be back. The Eddie had their opening ceremony. So I was complaining last week that I'm not confident that the event will run, even though they've advertised that it is greenlit or the window is open anyways, but they ran the opening ceremony anyways. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see what happens there.
One step closer.
Hey, the weather patterns in Hawaii have been crazy, man. They had this insane south winds that have, basically they lit up some spots that normally you wouldn't surf because the winds would be wrong. And it coincided with an incredible swell. So I'm sure you've seen some of the footage at some big wave spots at some of the outer islands with these strong Kona. Well, they're south winds really, they're from a Kona low. And there's been a lot of really good Instagram fodder, actual surf action.
Yeah. Well, we got a listener email that asked, with the Eddie, which is a non-WSL event, and the Jaws, which is a WSL event, and the Jaws event being there's only 2 stops on the Big Wave Tour. So what happens if both of those events go on the same exact day, because that has happened, that swell that will light up Waimea will also be lighting up Jaws. So what will happen, Scott, if both events get called on? How do surfers manage that? And what does the WSL have to say about that?
Wow, that's a great question. Could happen.
What does Billy Kemper do? What does Kai Lenny do?
Yeah, those are the ones, right? That it's. I think this is more of an issue for the Jaws event than it is for the Eddie event. The Eddie can field a crew no problem of just local charger guys. Like Clyde Cow can friggin' surf in it, and there's a million.
Aaron Gold, Ben
Yeah.
Wilkinson, Eli Olson, Grant. Well, I guess Grant would be conflicted. But yeah,
that's what I mean. There's a lot of guys on Oahu that could surf in the Eddie and would be worthy.
Mark Healy, Mason Ho.
Yeah, all of those guys, right? And so it's the WSL and the Jaws events which should be worried about this. Is the notoriety and the legacy of the Eddie going to pull the Billy Kempers away? Especially after there's pictures of Billy Kemper holding Clyde Icow's hand at the opening ceremony. What are you going to tell to Clyde? Hey, Clyde, I can't make it. I hope you understand. I don't know.
So we've actually been in this scenario, I think like 2 years ago, and they ended up running the next day, the Eddie. I think the wind was bad for the Eddie on the first day. And so the surfers did have to make this decision though, whether they go, because you got to be there at sunrise, so do you either go to Maui or do you go to Oahu? And thankfully they were able to run the Maui event one day and then the Eddie the following day. But in theory, they could run on the same day. And it really comes down to what do you see as more, I don't know, prestigious? As a surfer, which do you view as more prestigious and want to participate in? The problem is because the Big Wave World Tour only has 2 events on it now, the Jaws event really matters. Those points absolutely matter. They're 50% of your season. And if the other event doesn't run, it's 100% of your season. So it could mean a world title, not just an event win, but a world title.
Well, I guess the bigger question, or not the bigger, but an equally powerful question is which title means more to you in your legacy as a pro surfer? I think the Eddie, winning the Eddie means a lot more. And I would suggest to you that my gut feeling is, if I was in this situation, the Eddie is where it's at. This is the Eddie, man. They don't run it every year. You know what I mean? Like they've already had Jaws contests this year, I think. Who knows? To me, it feels like, just another Jaws contest. The Eddie's the Eddie, and plus if it runs, it's going to be Mac Daddy Waimea. And I personally feel like those surfers, and I can't speak for them, but the surfers, I would suggest to you that 80% of the surfers would surf in the Eddie.
I agree. The more we talk about it, if I could have my name on one of those lists, I would want it on the Eddie list.
And which one did you win?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, like if you could only win one, if you only had one trophy,
that's what I mean.
You're 80 years old.
Yeah.
I won the Eddie,
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal, even though I think we'll all agree that the waves at Jaws is a better wave. But it's the Eddie, this is where Eddie was a lifeguard. This is the deal. Red trunks, just big Hobie.
It's a more storied event. It's a more, the list of winners obviously is a lot longer because it's been running longer, but the list of winners whose names you would be alongside is significant.
I will say too, that I doubt this will happen, but if they do happen to have the green light on the same day, and a lot more surfers don't see it the way we're talking about it right now, and a lot more of them do Jaws instead of the Eddie, it'll be a bad thing for the organizers of that event to have their very first Eddie as the promoters, to not have like the solid field of guys that everyone expects to see. Totally. But like we said, you're going to get Bruce Irons, you're going to get Jamie O'Brien, you're going to get like a really solid field, even if some of those guys leave. But I don't know, it'll be weird. I hope it doesn't happen.
I just quick Googled the name of the winners of the Eddie. And I don't know if this is a comprehensive list that I just pulled up first, but do you want to hear the names? Can you name the winners?
I think I can name the very first one.
Okay.
Oh God, it was it. I know he was a Haleiwa guy, and his name's it's like got a Japanese last name.
Yep, you're very close.
I know it's on the tip of my tongue. It's not Denton, but it starts with
Yes,
a
it
D.
is.
Oh, it's Denton. Is it Dent? And it's a Japanese last name, but it's not Miyamura, is it? No. It's
Yes,
Dent.
it is. You
Oh, is
nailed
it? Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that qualifies as a win because you were saying it's not Denton Miyamura.
No. So yeah. So I know, because I've
Yeah.
surfed with the guy. I know who he is. And then I think the next year was Clyde, right? Or was it?
Yep.
And then the next year was Downing.
Yep. Keone.
And then the next year was well, the next year was
the
the next
decade
winner.
later.
Yeah, a decade later might have been okay, don't tell me, hold on. It wasn't Brock, but it was the year Brock got second and had that insane wave. So whoever won that year, what year was that? Was it Ross Clark?
1999.
Ross
No.
Clark Jones. Oh.
Ross Clark won the following event in 2021, but in 1999, it was another regular footer.
99. Who won the Eddie in 99, a regular footer? I don't know. I'm stumped.
Noah Johnson.
Oh, I would have never remembered that one. That's a good one, though. He's a great guy.
Do you know who won after Ross Clark in 2002? At the ripe old age of 29?
I think I was there. I think it was Bruce.
Nope.
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly
Bruce.
Slater.
Then
Then Bruce. In 2004, Bruce won at age 25. And then
Greg Long.
Greg Long at age 25 as well in 2009. Then the event didn't run for a full 7 years until John Florence took the big W in
that's cool.
2016.
I wouldn't have remembered that one, actually. I was like, who won it the next time? That's
Yeah,
cool.
so Denton Miyamura, Clyde Aikau, Keone Downing, Noah Johnson, Ross Clark Jones, Kelly Slater, Bruce Irons, Greg Long, and John Florence. I'd like to see John go back to back here.
That would be sick.
Yeah,
I would be psyched on that.
absolutely.
Well, I hope the Eddie runs. And God, it's a weird year for weather systems. So I wouldn't surprise me if something crazy blew up real close to Hawaii. Not too close. You want it, you probably want, actually, I'm not an expert, but I think you at least want 16 or 18 second interval.
Yeah.
To get that big, to be that big, it's got to be long interval to jump up on the reef.
Aside from Hawaii, how's that Blackbird twin fin? Have you been riding it?
I haven't been able to ride it, man.
Oh,
So,
no.
well, I had some minor surgery, so I've been kind of out of the water for a week. And I got it
Bummer.
2 days before the surgery, and I rode it one time in the most dismal, crappy, dribbly 1 foot waves that you could barely get a longboard going. But I was just like, I got to ride this board.
Yeah.
And but I'm looking forward to riding it. It feels good under my arm. I just wish I could get out on it. I got the new fins for it from NBS.
That's right. When are you approved to go back in the water?
I could go today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I could go today, and I'd like to, but it's cold and small and on shore.
Yeah. Good day to get some work done.
It is. Speaking of which, is that all you got?
I've got a Duke and a must-see moment.
Okay, well, my must-see moment, and I haven't seen it yet, but I want to watch it almost as soon as we hang up, is this Peter Mel documentary on Stab. And it's called, what is it called?
Well, I'll tell you what it's called, and they need to rename it.
Okay.
It's called Everything and All. And the reason they need to rename it is who's ever going to remember that title? Yeah. Like, I hate when even movies, not just surf movies, but Hollywood movies, give these titles that are so, I don't know what the right word is, boring or non-specific to their film, that it's like Everything and All. I've heard that title probably before, or I've heard variations on that title before 100 times. So how am I going to distinguish what you made versus what somebody else made? I have no idea,
Yeah.
It's just called the
Well,
Pete Mel doc, as far as I'm concerned.
and you've seen it, right?
I watched it. Yeah.
And I should watch it, shouldn't I? But don't, I need a spoiler alert here. I don't want to.
Well, there's nothing to spoil, to be
Well,
honest.
let me ask you this.
You know the story.
It suggests that it's like a unflinchingly honest account, which means warts and all, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
That is accurate. It is, but it isn't super in depth with those things, you know.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
I don't
think it's
need
okay
to know. I don't need to go in depth.
Well, he tells, let me just put it this way. It probably doesn't need to be like, it doesn't need to be a 2-hour documentary. They make it a 30-minute documentary. The short story that is not a spoiler is that Pete Mel had drug addiction issues at some point in his life that he overcame.
Yeah.
And so it dives into that, but it gives you 1 or 2 stories. You know, like when I say it's not super in depth, it gives you 1 or 2 stories rather than 20 drug stories.
Frankly, that's all you need. Yeah.
Fine. I agree.
I don't want to hear a bunch of like, you know, we get it, you know, like,
yeah.
I'd rather hear the good news afterwards. You know, I like the good news after like this. So it's a great rise and fall and rise. That's what it says.
That is the good news, is that he got the wave of a lifetime. I mean, the wave of the year, but maybe the wave of the decade in his 50s this past year as part of his rise. You know, he's still on the rise. So,
well, the best wave ever ridden at Mavericks, right? Did
exactly.
You and I agree that this is the best? I mean, not that we're like Mavericks experts, but I don't, you know, call me an idiot, but it seems like that's the greatest paddling wave ever at Mavericks.
Nobody would argue with that, against that. And, you know, so, and then of course his son is part of this story as well. So that's really great to see. And his son's charging it on the left at Mavericks.
Gnarly.
So it's very well done. I loved it. Kyle Boothman's been doing great work interviewing and creating profile pieces for the San Diego Brethren for the last 5 to 10 years or so. So this is another part of that series. And I think it's probably the best piece that he's done. And Pete Mel's just such a likable hero to root for, such a likable guy to root for. And so congratulations to Pete and all of his successes.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to watching.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. And that could easily qualify as my must-see moment, but I'm just going to say that it's John Florence's 10-point ride, and watch it on repeat. You can't watch that wave once. You could find it on WSL's Instagram. You could find it on probably a lot of other Instagrams, but you can't watch that wave once. It's insane how good it is, flawlessly surfed it is. It is John at the peak of his abilities, you know, just really performing. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Good for you. And I agree with you. And I've watched it more than once, believe me.
Well, my Duke this week could be a lot of people, because a lot of people have had a great week, especially with all these qualifiers, but it's got to be Carlos Munoz, because I've been hyping him for so long. But it's not just for that reason. It's specifically for an Instagram post that his coach, Jimmy Hogan, posted. Did you see this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So Carlos Munoz did not qualify outright. He lost in the Haleiwa event early, and his qualification was dependent upon other people losing. One such person was in the maybe the quarterfinals. His name was Kalani Ball. He's a Hawaii surfer who was surfing really well throughout the event. So if Kalani Ball made this heat, Carlos would not qualify for the tour. If Kalani Ball lost the heat, Carlos would qualify. And what his coach, Jimmy Hogan, did was sit behind Carlos, who was watching the heat. So Carlos is sitting on a sofa watching the heat on the internet, and Jimmy's sitting behind Carlos filming him without him knowing. And throughout the heat, Carlos was rooting for Kalani Ball to win. He was cheering him. He was cheering him on. He was like, Kalani fell on a wave and Carlos was like, no, you know, like audibly disappointed for Kalani, even though it was to Carlos's own detriment. And so Jimmy then posted that Instagram and even wrote in the caption, hey, you guys, I'm so proud of this young man, because not only is he a phenomenal surfer, but he's just a great human being who is not wishing ill upon anyone. So,
well, that's cool. I'm just glad to hear that. And for the record, I'm a fan of Carlos. I wouldn't mind paying you the 100 or 200 or $300 or whatever, because he's got a great story. And certainly both he and Jake in weird ways have their own
Totally.
sort of up and down moments here. And they're slightly different, different demons on each side of it. But everyone loves a comeback story. And we've got two of them with Jake Marshall and Carlos Munoz. So best of luck to both of them.
Hopefully they'll both push through to the end of the season. I would like to see them both at G-Land.
That would be cool. I'm hoping that's the case. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Cool, man.
All right, David, until next time, adios and aloha.